Good morning, everyone. Happy Thursday. Happy day to you. This is week 8 of the Diamond Heart Project for the first beta launch, and it's an honor to hold space and offer these teachings and guidance and support in any given way. It's been definitely evolving 8 weeks together and growing and shifting, and I know that many things have come up for many of you, as well as like redesigning this program of honoring yourself in every given way. Every self-love, self-care program. And so, we're diving deep into designing something to honor like all parts of your being. Like we have an emotional body, energetic body, physical body, and mental body, and honoring that in every way, in the way that you have your practice. And so this week is probably going to be one of those deepest weeks of inner work that we've done. The past 4 to 5 weeks have been really about grounding into a practice of honoring yourself, as I mentioned. And now it's like being able to apply that practice into different aspects of inner work and things that we do. And so this week is really about, there's a modality that I've been practicing and working with for many years, including in the medicine circles that we offer, called RENXUE. And RENXUE was channeled through a gentleman by the name of Wanzi. And he's a great Chinese master, or great Qi master in the Chinese lineage. And there's there's a history to him where he was orphaned as a child and was taken in by the monks and lived in many different monasteries of growing up, and became very attuned to the energy of Qi and very tied into doing Qi work with people and everything from healing medical ailments with Qi work with people and all these kind of things. And he had people from all around the world would come see him to quote unquote be healed, or to transition, or to clear medical ailments out of their bodies. And he would do this very powerful work, and then he would notice after a couple of years that people would come back for the same thing, and he realized that they weren't doing the conscious work around clearing out these diseases or medical ailments within their systems. And so he began to channel this incredible program called RENXUE. It's a 9-level or 9-step program of learning how to shift our consciousness and how to change the patterns of how we operate in the world. And this is not about changing your core beliefs as far as being true to yourself. This is about sometimes we have limiting beliefs, or sometimes unconscious ways or patterns we show up in the world based on different experiences we've had, whether it be traumatic moments, very blissful moments, things we thought that we did that worked out, things that we thought that we did that didn't work out. Either way, it's all scoped in how we show up in the world. And so this program called RENXUE is something that I've been practicing and teaching for many years. It's part of being a master practitioner with the Cambo International organization. And I wanted to bring that into this program and this proposal to doing this inner work. And it's very simple. Got to remember our consciousness just holds different software programs of how we operate in the world, and they're not personalized. It's just your consciousness goes, oh, when A, B happens, then we think C, or our action is C. It's not, it can seem tailored to you, but it's really not. It's just like, oh, when A, B, and B happen, then we do this, and we can disrupt that pattern or that equation that's in our consciousness of how to respond to things in life and how to show up in the world. And so I want to run through, these teachings are much deeper than this, but on the basic level, as far as the entrance level, as far as these teachings, there are 10 fundamental patterns of human nature that we operate as. And you can maybe identify with some of these or not, or all of them, either way. Not from a place of judgment, just recognize, oh, that happens to me sometimes, or that's a way that I think. And then I'm going to give you a scope on like a very easy technique of how to shift these patterns when you feel they show up or when you recognize them. Okay. And so the first pattern is called polarized thinking. You see it a lot of times in government, right? Where like it's either red or blue, and it has to be either this extreme or this extreme. And it can show up in many ways in relationships, business, how you show up in the world, at the grocery store, like all of it. And so polarized thinking is one way that shows up in our system. And so that's the first one. The second one is overgeneralization, and we see this a lot in our society. Things like with racism, or things like, well, we overgeneralize. Oh, if this is happening, then all of that happening, right? Or even in genders, where like one gender thinks the other gender always does this, and generalizes into a whole community or a whole group of people, or assumptions in a way. And so yeah. And on our call, we can go much deeper into the explanation of these different patterns, but I just want to give you a scope just to kind of activate some kind of thought processes. Number 3 is unfounded suspicions. And there are times our consciousness will have an unfounded suspicion around something, and then begin to go down the rabbit hole. Maybe you're at work and a coworker is acting a little funny, or your boss, if you want to call him that, is a little snippy with you, or your partner is a little short in something they say, and you begin to create some unfounded suspicions around maybe what's going on with them or what they're thinking about, and or then just communicating. And so that's number 3. Number 4 is negativity, withdrawal, inactivity, pessimism, around like our consciousness and just how it can think sometimes around how we view the world. And so there's number 4. Number 5 has to do with fixed expectations, preconceptions, taking things for granted, or false assumptions. I'm sure many of us are out there, have had moments in our life where we've had fixed expectations on something evolving into the way it's going to be, or false assumptions, assuming that something is the way that it is, and that not being true, and getting your mind blown when you realize that what you were assuming was not true, and having to kind of it's like a jolt to the consciousness, how to reconfigure, because it's like, no, I believe this, and then it's not that. And so this work with RENXUE is actually about disrupting that, so you can enter the world for more of a divine self, for more of being present in the moment and seeing the gifts that are being presented, rather than having a fixed expectation or thought process or a limited view on how life is presenting itself. And so again, number 5 was fixed expectations, preconceptions, taking things for granted, or false assumptions. Number 6 is greediness, and that extends so much more than just when it comes to, say, finances or food. Like, there is a greediness around lots of things, and when you really go down to the inner work around like the roots of these things, you realize that they are attached to many things. We can have a pattern of greediness because maybe as a child we didn't have lots of things that we needed. It's not important how these were formed, it's just recognizing that they're there, And of course, if your situation was a child not having what you needed, there might be a sense of greediness when it comes to like having your needs met in life. I totally understand where it comes from. It's not about not understanding. It's just if that doesn't serve you anymore in that conscious pattern, we can learn how to shift it. So yeah. Number 7 has to be called self-centeredness, and our society in these days likes to point this out in many different ways, or it's really happening rapidly. And again, all of these patterns are not judged upon at all. They're just being able to recognize when they maybe show up in your world. And so if it doesn't serve anymore, we can begin to shift it. 8 is I see it in the medicine world a lot. It's called hiding and avoiding. And there are things that people want to look at, and there are also things that people don't want to look at. And so hiding and avoiding is a technique that people use unconsciously in looking at things. Maybe like somebody comes out of a medicine circle and they aren't really pleased with what they discovered about themselves, and so they don't do the integration work because they want to hide and avoid from that process. Or it's really challenging for them and they hide and avoid from it. And so there's many different ways. That's what a lot of substances are used for hiding and avoiding. Like, they don't want to feel something or they don't want to process something that was challenging for them in their life. everyone can use anything for hiding and avoiding, even practices, um, around yoga can be used for hiding and avoiding if you don't want to look at something. The point is that it's really being aware and know what you're up to, know why you do what you do, and it isn't. There's nothing wrong with these as you begin to shift these patterns with them showing back up again. There's no judgment around that. It's just like knowing like, oh, there's my pattern, and you kind of be able to laugh about it. My mentor that I work with around this beautiful work, like I've been with her many times where she's like, oh, there's my pattern of such and such, and being able to recognize it, and it really takes the pressure off and you just really begin to be a little more playful with yourself, a little more joyful. Oh, I remember we were preparing for a retreat one time and we were leaving Costco and like somebody cut her off and her pattern of whatever it was showed up and she laughed and giggled about it. She still did it, still did the action, but she laughed and that's my pattern of such and such, not being patient or whatever it was. So the point is just being able to be more and more authentic with yourself and be able to see like how you're showing up in the world, and with a smile and looking to kind of laugh, because these, again, your conscious patterns aren't you. They're just a software of operation that's in your mainframe that we can reprogram. So yeah. Number 9 is stubbornness. This was a big part of my life for many years around, around showing up in life for certain things as a younger being. Stubbornness, And number 10 is fight for dominance, desire for victory or competitiveness. And this doesn't have, again, I'll repeat that, fight for dominance, desire for victory or competitiveness. This doesn't have to be related to athletics. It's not about that. I know, after doing this work, I realized that I was very competitive with my co-parent, with my son, and didn't realize it, until I began to really do this work. And I don't find myself. I love sports. It's enjoyable to go play and have that camaraderie and that experience together. But as far as like that deep desire to need to win, hasn't always ever been there. And so it was really interesting to discover that was showing up with my relationship with my co-parent around like needing for victory or to create better experience in my house than her house. So interesting to watch that. And so you're able to notice these things when you really sit in a place of neutrality without any judgment and seeing how these things show up. There's many roots to these 10 fundamental patterns. A lot of them connect to each other. A lot of them are layered. You might look at one part of yourself or see something showing up, and when you work through that, you notice that it's connected to the next layer, which may be another one of the fundamental patterns. So it's really intriguing how they're all connected in many different ways. So there's the 10 fundamental patterns. There can be more, but the point is these are like the 10 fundamental ones of the human consciousness that might show up in our lives different times through our life experience. And so here comes the fun part now. There's 4 easy steps to begin to shift these patterns. And when you see them come up, or when you can acknowledge them, sometimes they might show up when you're in the middle of doing it. You're like, oh wow, I'm doing it right there. Again, no place of judgment. Just recognize that it's happening, and you can kind of laugh about it. Maybe you recognize it after it's done or after it shows up. Or days later. It doesn't matter either way. Or like you might begin to notice too, is as we begin to go through and recognize it and replace it, you might have moments in your life show up where you normally feel you'd respond in a pattern and you're not. And then you recognize, wow, normally in that moment I would have been doing this, but right now I feel really centered or whatever it is. So there's the 10 fundamental ones. Again, we can talk about it on the call. But again, so coming back into the way of shifting these, the first thing you want to do is really coming to awareness around being able to like acknowledge it, and acknowledge that it's happening. Acknowledge that this pattern is coming up for me, and you just acknowledge it. You have awareness around it. You're like, oh, there's my pattern of such and such, or there's my pattern of false assumptions. I'm assuming something that maybe isn't true in this moment that I don't know. Or maybe there's my pattern of competitiveness showing up. Wow, okay. And just being really honest with yourself. And After you acknowledge it, step one, as you acknowledge it, you acknowledge which pattern it is for you. Oh, there's my pattern of, like I said, of competitiveness. There's my pattern of false assumptions. There's a pattern of overgeneralization. Every corporation must do this way because that's the way they are. No, you're generalizing. Each thing is specific, and so, anyways, second step is accept it. Like, just accept that it's happening. Like, accept that pattern of belief system or operation is happening in the moment. You don't have to accept that it's going to be that way forever, but the fact that accept that it's happening in the moment. And it's a big one. Most people want to go move past the opportunity of accepting it and just move right into replacing it. But know that the acceptance is one of the most important parts, is accepting it. Not for a place of shame or blame, just like, well, I accept the fact that in this moment I'm having some competitiveness, or I accept in this moment that I'm overgeneralizing. It's a foundational moment because you're taking accountability for it, and then from that moment we can begin to shift it. If you skip over, if you just acknowledge it and want to replace it, there's no acceptance, and so it's going to continue showing up, right? And so you accept it. And then the third step is you face it with courage. And facing with courage is accepting it and then beginning to look at replacing it. And so what we do is we work with the qualities of the heart in replacing it. And the qualities of the heart, the 5 that I work with, are trust, openness, integrity, open heart, and true respect. And so it's trust, openness, humility, true respect, and open heart. Yeah. So there's 5. And there can be many more. The qualities of the heart, we can talk about it more on the call. There's a whole, the qualities of the heart are many things. The qualities of the heart. And we would be here for hours till we try to list them all. But you want to replace it with the quality of the heart. And so it's very simple. You just acknowledge, like, oh, I see. I'm noticing that why am I responding in this moment? Why am I being reactive? Oh, my conscious pattern of competitiveness is coming up. Okay, I accept that it's coming up, and I want to replace it with trust, or I want to replace it with openness, or I want to replace it with love. Like, whatever it is you want to replace it with, and then you just say that to yourself 3 times. You replace it with the quality of the heart. Like, oh, I acknowledge that my pattern of competitiveness is coming up in this moment. I want to replace it with love, or replace it with trust, or whatever you want to replace it with. And say that 3 times. And what you begin to notice is that pattern even might show up more for you because it's coming to the service to be released. And you'll then keep replacing it. And then something will happen. A week later, a day later, a month later, where that pattern would normally show up, and you're recognizing that you're not responding to it, but you're actually responding with the quality of the heart you've been replacing it with. So very simple. So again, step 1 is acknowledging it. Step 2 is accepting it. Step 3 is facing it with courage. And step 4 is replacing it with the quality of the heart. And very simple. So that's the RENXUE program around the different fundamental patterns. There's much deeper than that, but this is like baseline, level 1 as far as like this program of RENXUE. So I want to bring that modality into this Diamond Heart project and just give you some things to look at. And this really helps doing the deeper work. And so if you have any questions on that, let me know. We can always talk on the call. But blessings to you all, and excited for this final week together, and blessings on your evolution. Okay, blessings. Love you.